Awesome. It is 2 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get started as people are jumping on, just to get the opportunity to pass the mic over to Mickey to talk about Rob's here in just a few minutes, but just super excited to have all of you on here today. So you want to just take a second and say hi in the chat, introduce yourself. If you don't know me, I'm Macy. I'm the Regional Program Coordinator at the eFactory and for Show Me Network. I'm just super excited to have you here. Oh, sorry, I'm getting more requests as they're coming in. Perfect. So if you're new here, welcome to the Show Me Network. We are a joint organization based starting out of the eFactory and with Codify from Cape Girardeau. Sorry, I was trying to read my notes and it was not working for me. We typically meet the second Tuesday, so just super excited that you're here. And yeah, drop who you are in the chat so we know who is here and available. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Mickey Parker, the CEO and owner of Accelefund. Mickey has years of experience in lending and financing, and just super excited to hear from him today. He's helped lots of small businesses start by using their retirement funds to start their business, and just super excited for him to share more information on all of that and what it takes to do that for your business. Mickey, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Macy, for the introduction and good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate you joining to hear a little bit more about using retirement funds. Before I put this presentation together, I spent some time on the Show Me Network website. And one sentence that stood out to me, it says the mission is to help entrepreneurs provide access to resources, capital, strategic guidance, and connections across Missouri. And of course, the word capital is why I'm here today. So, I'm not here to convince you that every entrepreneur should use retirement funds to start a business. They shouldn't. But I am here to, I think because I believe that every entrepreneur deserves to know all the funding options that are available to them. And so many people have never heard of using retirement funds to directly invest in their business. So, um, you can move on to the next slide. Imagine someone walks into your office tomorrow. They found the perfect business. They've done their homework. They have industry experience. Their family supports their idea. But then they say, I just don't have enough money to pull it off. Most of us have heard that conversation dozens of times. Ideas usually aren't the problem. Passion isn't usually the problem. Capital is that missing piece. Next slide. When the entrepreneur starts looking for money, the conversation usually goes in that familiar direction. Banks, SBA loans, friends and family, investors, personal savings. But there's one question that almost never gets asked, and that's, do you have money in an old 401k or an IRA? So why doesn't that question get asked? Really, it's, most people think that their only option is to pay the taxes and the penalties if they use it, and they probably don't want to do that. So it's really one question that can completely change the funding conversation. Next. Federal income tax law has allowed individuals to use retirement funds to start or buy a business for decades. I have clients who used their retirement funds to start their business in 2004, 22 years ago, that are still clients of mine. So instead of withdrawing retirement money and paying the taxes and penalties, the retirement plan actually invests directly in the business. Think of the investment choices within a typical 401k plan. Most people are going to invest in mutual funds. Now, imagine if one of those investment options, when you looked at that list of options, was stock in your own company. The money never becomes a personal distribution, so therefore there's no taxes or penalties. And that's is what's called a rollover for business startup. And it commonly goes by the acronym ROBS, ROBS. And I often say I believe the IRS is the one that gave it that name and probably intentionally did that because of the acronym involved. But we do have to credit the IRS for that name. Next. When people hear about it, they often assume that the process must be really incredibly uh, difficult and burdensome. It really isn't. It's a five-step process. First, a C Corp is formed, and that's by IRS rule. The entity that's funded by a ROBS plan must be a C Corp. That corporation is then going to adopt its own 401k or profit sharing plan. Then, once that plan is established, the person can then roll over their retirement funds, whether that be a 401k or IRA, into this new plan. In step four, they're going to say, Mickey, I don't want to invest in mutual funds. I could have left my money in my old plan and done that. What I want to do is buy stock, use my retirement plan account to buy stock in the C Corp that we established back in step one. And then finally, the corporation receives that cash. The retirement plan sends it to the Corp to start the business. But in exchange, the Corp is going to give the retirement plan a stock certificate documenting its ownership of the business. And that's it. Those five steps is how we get retirement savings to become business capital. And that process usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks to complete. There's a couple of variables involved, but generally 2 to 3 weeks can we can complete that process. Next. Let me tell you about a couple of current clients. One's a husband and wife. They're dairy farmers in a town of 450 people. They wanted to create something in that their community didn't have, which was a coffee and sandwich shop. So they used funds from both of their IRAs. Both the husband and wife contributed money to the plan to start their business. Now today they're employing people in their town. The other one is a former government employee who used money he had put away in his thrift savings to open an automobile repair shop in a town of about 230 people. And of course, today he's employing people in his town. Now, those of you who might be around the Kansas City area or familiar with Startland News, Startland News actually did a feature on him and using his retirement funds um, earlier this year. Now, these aren't just funding stories. Again, they're new builds, starting from scratch, employing people in their town. They're really community development stories. Next. Now, many clients will eventually need an SBA loan. Now, the ROBS doesn't replace the bank. It really complements the bank. Beginning in 2020 and continuing today under the SBA's current standard operating procedures, ROBS is actually formally recognized as an acceptable source of the required equity injection. So when a client doesn't have enough personal savings for that equity injection, or maybe they just don't want to deplete their personal savings, then retirement funds can often be used to satisfy that equity requirement. And here are a couple of examples of clients that use ROBS to close their SBA loan. Here in Kansas City, commercial electrical contractor used 150,000 of a $188,000 rollover as the equity injection. It met the 15% equity requirement that the bank needed. He was able to buy $1 million business. In this case, the business was very successful, and within 2 years, he had created enough cash within his business to turn around and buy that stock back out of the plan. He replaced the money back into his retirement plan. He now personally owns that business. The second one is one that we just closed here in the last couple of weeks. This was a plant manager who was wanting to buy the business that he worked for. So he used a combination of retirement funds and some personal funds to meet the equity injection to buy that business. And that allowed them to acquire that business without depleting all of their personal funds, although they did have to use some. Next. This might be my favorite slide. Number one, because AI can make me look a lot younger than I really am in the picture. But after helping clients use the strategy for nearly 15 years, I had the opportunity in 2025 to actually purchase Accelefund. I had a decision to make. Do I simply recommend this strategy to other people, or do I trust it enough to use my own retirement savings? So I chose to use a Rob's transaction to acquire Accelefund. So that's why I can honestly say, I'm speaking to you today not only as a CPA and advisor, but as someone who has actually personally walked through that Rob's process. Next. So, who are good candidates for a Rob's plan? Generally, we want them to have at least $50,000 in an eligible retirement account. That could be a 401k, IRA, 403b, 457b, simple SEP, government thrift plan that we mentioned earlier. Um, a client does not have to use all of the money that's in their plan. In fact, we would obviously not recommend it. We'd hope it's just simply a diversification where they're using some of it and not all of it. So if somebody says, I'm really happy with leaving my money with my money manager, I only need 150,000, 250,000, they can leave the rest of it where it is. They can only they have the ability to only roll over what they need. Of course, someone needs to be starting or buying a business. They could be launching just a new venture from scratch, purchasing an existing business. Maybe they're buying a franchise. That's a common use of Rob's in just about any industry. New the new business must provide goods or services. We talked earlier about the SBA injection. Also, we'll have some clients who look at SBA or even look at conventional, but then decide that they have enough money in their retirement plan that they just want to start debt free. So that allows them to I guess save cash without having a loan payment if they have enough in there to be able to start the business debt free. One of the requirements is that the person who rolls the funds over must be a W-2 employee and provide genuine personal services to that C corp. It's not intended as a passive investment. They're not putting money in and letting somebody else run it. They're intended to be active in the business. Also, someone who's been recently laid off, maybe they're in career transition, and you ask that question, do you have an old IRA or old 401k? Then perhaps Rob's can become a discussion for them and would be someone that you would want to perhaps refer over to our office. Next. Just as important, not everyone should use Rob's. Sometimes the right answer is no. Our goal isn't to really force the solution, it's just to recommend a right solution. So, if someone has limited retirement savings, there is a fee to set up a Rob's plan. In our case, we charge $4,500. There is an ongoing, because a retirement plan gets created, there's an ongoing third-party administration fee. So our feeling has always been using that $50,000 number. It's really kind of it's not economical for someone who has $20,000 to pay us $4,500 and $1,000, $1,200 a year in a third party administrator fee. So we generally try to stick with that $50,000 minimum. So if somebody has less than that, that's probably not a good fit for a Rob's plan. if their only investment is a Roth IRA, uh, law does not allow Roth IRAs to be rolled over into an employer-sponsored plan, so it's not available for rollover. Again, the passive investment, we talked a little bit about that. Um, if someone's wanting to invest in real estate or be a silent partner, Rob's isn't a good answer. That may be where they would want to consider really a self-directed IRA. If they're very risk averse about their savings account, and that's certainly understandable. If they're just highly uncomfortable using retirement funds, then that's probably not a good option for them. I put this in here as business is already an LLC is not a good fit. That's not necessarily true. What it does, though, is add some additional steps and some additional costs. I've had a number of clients who came to me with an existing LLC and wanting to get money into that LLC. And what they ultimately did is the C Corp got formed and they gave the LLC to the C Corp. So the C Corp became the owner of the LLC. In exchange, they got some personal stock. So they owned the C Corp, which owned the LLC. And now we've got a C Corp in place that can be funded by the ROBS plan. So it can be done. There's some we certainly tell clients to make sure they visit with their tax advisor to see if there's any negative effect to them contributing the LLC to the C Corp. The other and is somebody who needs funds immediately in under 2 weeks. It might be surprising to learn that I actually did have a client who called me, I believe, on a Thursday or Friday and says, Mickey, I'm supposed to close on a business the following Tuesday. Can I do that? Like, no, that's not going to work. So um, we need at least 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, next slide. So here, quick summary. If you remember one thing from today, you don't have to become the expert. Just remember this option exists. 6 months from now, if someone walks into your office and says, "I'd love to buy a business, don't have money," the question to ask them is, do you happen to have any money in an old IRA or 401k? And if the answer is yes, just remember me. Um, uh, Rob's is legal. It is IRS recognized. It is SBA recognized. It does allow virtually 100% of retirement funds to be used as opposed to 30 to 40% that might be paid in taxes if somebody took a distribution. Again, it works with SBA. One of the, I think, underrated benefits of a ROBS is it actually creates a real employee benefit plan. If you're going to have employees, this 401k plan applies to the employees. It can be used by the employees for as a 401k and or profit sharing plan. So there's no additional plan to have to set up if somebody an employer wants to have a 401k plan. Again, 2 to 3 weeks, $4,500 to set up. And we handle the whole process from that step one to step five. We will do all that. We'll actually form the C Corp for them through the Secretary of State's office. And as most of you probably know, that's not a particularly difficult process. Um, but we'll help them do that as well. So next slide. Your mission is helping Missouri entrepreneurs succeed. Our mission is helping entrepreneurs access capital responsibly. So I feel like our missions really fit well together. So I'm really thrilled to partner with the Show Me Network. We'll consult with any client who wants to know more about ROBS. If you have groups in your local communities that would benefit from a presentation or a workshop on ROBS, reach out. I'm happy to do on Thursday. I'm going down to do a lunch and learn, actually out of town. So I encourage you to check out our website at accelefund.com. If you scroll down, you'll actually see this white box that says Learn More. The one thing that I would really point out is the check out our Rob's video. Um, I had an SBA, a state SBA office tell me, hey, we'd like to have a quick video. It's 7 minutes long, um, just to introduce a potential client, just to tell them what we don't know that they could find out. And that's a good video you could even share with clients, as long as you don't mind it being from the Arkansas SBDC, because that's the state that had me do it. So if we can help one more entrepreneur start a business, save one more downtown storefront, create one more local employer, then I think today's conversation's worthwhile. Thank you again for having me. My contact information is shown on the bottom slide. Don't hesitate to email me with any questions, any resources I can provide to you. I'd be more than happy to do that. So if we have some time, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, we do have a few minutes. If anybody has any questions, you can throw them in the chat or, you know, oh, Chris has a question. Hold on. I saw it, but then I flickered off my chat. Oop. What are the most common reasons someone can't take advantage of this program?
Well, most common probably is not enough money in the retirement plan. Number two might be um, there are some restrictions on a ROBS plan that are not maybe part of a normal C Corp. And the biggest one is you can't do business with yourself or another entity. So if one of the common ones that I talk about is I had a potential client who had a manufacturing business. One of his biggest expenses was trucking, and he wanted to use a ROBS plan to start a trucking business, but the primary customer of that trucking business was going to be his existing personally owned business. The IRS says you can't intermingle those. So starting a complementary business with a ROBS plan that's going to do business with an existing business that they personally own would probably be another one similar to this manufacturing owner.
And Crystal Jones says, is this only available with 401k plans or are there other types also eligible, such as 403b, Roth, etc.?
Yeah, the 401k, 403b, 457, simple SEP, government, the TSP, government thrift plans are all available. Roth IRA is not available. An IRA inherited from a non-spouse. So if a rich uncle leaves you their IRA, that's not available. However, if a spouse were to pass away, you can use that for a ROBS. A Roth 401k. So if you had a previous employer where you were putting money into a Roth, that can be rolled over as long as it's still in the 401k type plan. A Roth 401k money source is allowed. So the Roth IRA is not, but Roth 401k money is allowed.
Perfect. Any other questions? Like speaking
Again, don't
around.
hesitate to reach out. Uh, I, I do a longer presentation, and usually a good detail of Rob's might take an hour. So I've jammed a whole lot of tried to get a whole lot of information into a short period of time. So again, don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions, or and if you were to refer a client and you would like to be on the phone call to hear the conversation, we can always do a conference call, Zoom call, that type of thing as well. So whichever works for you will work for us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mickey. We appreciate having you on today. Um, all of you still in attendance, we do have a few more things to cover. So we're gonna have to go ahead and do a quick recap of the mini game. Super exciting, actually, while we were sitting here, this went from 52 to 53. So if you have not been a part of our mini game, you should be, is the first part I'm gonna say on that. So our Show Me Network mini game is a goal for us to reach every county in Missouri by the end of August. So super excited that we are almost at that 50% mark. We do have a goal of reaching 84 counties by July 27th, and we are at 53. So we are getting closer by the day. If you are curious of like, hey, what counties still haven't been hit? Shoot me an email right after this call, and I can send you a list of all of them. I meant to throw a slide on this deck, but it did not get on there. But most of you also probably received an email yesterday from Crystal with an image included that has all of those counties included. I believe Jefferson was the one that got counted off while I was on this call. So super excited that we are now at 53 and just keep moving forward with that. Another thing that I wanted to talk about and mention, if you haven't been on a call yet where I've talked about our Show Me Network flyer, also Kelly, you've been my tester in case you didn't know. This is your flyer. So there's that. But we created this flyer with a place to be able to put you as the resource on the flyer. And so, love that. We want you to share it with your area, with the people around you. Take it to, um, you know, if you're doing a lunch and learn or if you're doing different things, take it with you, share that information, give it out. Also, if you don't have a flyer with your information on it, I should be getting that to you shortly. But if you're like, hey, I want it by like tomorrow or I have an event next week, shoot me over an email, macycurtis@missouristate.edu, and I can make sure to get that to you pretty quickly for my turnaround on that. But also, if you're like, hey, maybe I'm not the best person to have that, but like I want a flyer, so reach out to me. I'll give you the flyer with my information. I have one with my information on it as well. So we can make sure we get those in your hands to be able to share them with the people around you. Okay, our next Show Me Connection webinar will be August 11th at 2 p.m. So thank you guys for taking some time out of your Tuesday to come and hear about Rob's. Thank you, Mickey, for joining us today, but we will see you all at the next Show Me Connection.